Hey guys, welcome back. We're taking a look at a video from the British time capsule, and this is what nightlife was like in London's wildest 80s. It's a little bit different. I'm excited to take a look at this and see what it was like back then. Club life over there. I will link this video in the description along with a link over to Patreon and a link of how you could support the channel right here on YouTube with a one-time donation or by becoming a member and getting some extra perks. But let's go ahead and jump into it.
London at night in the 1980s was electric. Neon lights reflected off wet pavements, queues wrapped around the block, and inside, the music hit like a thunderbolt. Clubs weren't just places to dance. They were battlegrounds of fashion, rebellion, and freedom. This was where subcultures collided, where Wall Street suits brushed shoulders with punks, new romantics, and DJs who would change music forever. Behind every door was a story, behind every beat, a revolution. This is what nightlife was really like in London during the 80s. Let's begin. Some nights did not feel like reality. Clubs like Heaven, the Camden Palace, and the Wag Club became legendary, not because of who owned them, but because of who danced inside. They were playgrounds for rebellion, fashion, and freedom. Spaces where rules dissolved with the first song. Inside, music was louder, lights were sharper, and nights stretched longer than anyone planned. These clubs offered more than drinks and dancing. They offered identity. Subcultures mixed without permission or apology, creating atmospheres no one could replicate in daylight. Bouncers decided who got in, but once inside, anything felt possible. Dancers, punks, pop stars, and students all collided beneath flashing lights and pounding bass. For many, these places became second homes, the only places they truly belonged. The stories born on these dance floors shaped a generation. Behind closed doors, friendships, romances, and movements formed. These weren't just clubs. They were the heartbeat of a restless decade. Who would you want to dance with again? The sound of the night changed forever with the rise of electronic music. Synthesizers, drum machines, and samples replaced guitars, bringing a colder, sharper energy to dance floors across London. This was not the music of pubs or live bands. It belonged to dark rooms, flashing lights, and endless nights. DJs became storytellers, shaping entire evenings with beats instead of words. Tracks by New Order, Depeche Mode, and Pet Shop Boys captured the era's mood, detached, restless, and hypnotic. The music wasn't warm. It was precise, mechanical, and impossible to forget. Clubs embraced this future with neon arms. The dance floor became a space where bodies moved like machines, lost in loops of rhythm and sound. People danced not for each other, but for the music itself, eyes closed, heads down, hearts racing. Electronic music reshaped nightlife's possibilities. It connected strangers, stretched nights into mornings, and laid the foundation for the rave culture that would explode by the decade's end. Punk never truly died, it just changed its beat. Even as punk faded from radio charts, its anger and defiance stayed alive on London's dance floors. Clubs embraced its energy, blending it with new sounds, faster tempos, and a sense of chaos that felt both dangerous and thrilling.
Sex Pistols was 70s or was it 80s?
Punk's influence was everywhere, from the fashion to the attitude. Nobody cared if you danced well, only that you danced hard, fast, and without shame. Aggression turned into movement, rebellion into rhythm. It was less about destruction now, more about survival through self-expression. In these clubs, punks mixed with goths, skinheads, and the first waves of new romantic kids. The lines between subcultures blurred beneath neon lights and pounding bass. Unity came not from agreement, but from shared exhaustion and defiance. Punk's spirit gave nightlife a new kind of edge. The dance floor became a space for outsiders, for those still angry, still loud, and still determined to leave their mark on every song. Fashion ruled the night as fiercely as music. What people wore said everything before they even stepped onto the dance floor. Neon colours, heavy eyeliner, bold silhouettes. Clothes became a declaration of rebellion, freedom, and creativity. The boundaries between gender, style, and expectation blurred with every outfit. Men in makeup, women in suits, everyone in something louder than life itself. Fashion wasn't about fitting in. It was about standing out, about turning heads and breaking rules with every look. London streets became catwalks after dark. From Camden to Soho, style mattered more than money or fame. A cheap jacket, worn the right way, held more power than designer labels. Identity was stitched into every seam. Fashion transformed nightlife into theatre. Behind every flash of a camera or glance in a mirror, someone was writing their own story, one outfit, one night at a time. Soho after dark was a labyrinth of temptation and danger. Behind neon signs and unmarked doors, the underground pulsed with life, secrets and stories few dared to share. Strip clubs, private bars, and shadowy lounges drew in those searching for freedom or escape. What happened in Soho stayed hidden from polite society. Here, fame and infamy danced together beneath dim lights and velvet curtains. Gangsters rubbed shoulders with artists, lovers with strangers, and deals were made over whispered conversations and spilled drinks. The underground offered something the daylight couldn't: permission to let go. Music played louder, drinks poured faster, and masks came off in ways they never could under the sun. Risk hung in the air.
Which reminds me of a movie, British movie. The Velvet Underground, I think is what it was. I worked at a video store when I was young, and I remember coming across that movie and watching it. And I think it was about Bowie, or it was off of kind of based on it, but it was like Jonathan Rhys Meyers and like a young Christian Bale. But it was like them coming up at that time. And I was trying to think in my head during this of like British like singers that probably would have been bouncing around some of these places at that time. And I was thinking Sex Pistols that I mentioned earlier, and I think they were like 70s, 80s, and of course Bowie. Who else was there? Who else was like a big British icon at that time that would have been like in clubs? And so, because I think about like here, the 70s, 80s, the like Studio 54 was a huge place. I know Bowie did go there. Like everybody went. Tina Turner.
But so did possibility. Soho's nights weren't glamorous. They were raw, thrilling, and unforgettable. Beneath the grime and glitter, it gave London's nightlife its edge, its stories, and its legend. Drugs didn't lurk in the shadows. They were part of the soundtrack. Ecstasy, cocaine, and speed flowed through clubs almost as freely as the music itself. For many, these pills and powders weren't about rebellion. They were about extending the night, deepening the beat, and escaping the ordinary. The highs shaped the rhythm of the night. Bodies moved longer, hearts beat faster, connections felt deeper beneath flashing lights and pulsing bass. Conversations stretched into dawn, fueled by chemicals and curiosity. Behind every high, though, was a cost. The thrill came with risks few cared to measure until much later. Ambulances waited outside as often as taxis, and tragedy walked hand in hand with euphoria. Drugs became part of the culture, for better or worse. They opened doors to new experiences, blurred realities, and made the 80s nightlife unforgettable, and sometimes unforgiving. The night belonged to those who defied expectations. Drag queens, gender
Love
benders,
drag queen
and anyone who
shows.
dared to live outside the norm found their stage beneath London's club lights. What daylight condemned, nightlife celebrated with open arms and pounding bass. Fashion was freedom, makeup was armor, and performance became survival. Here, men wore heels without shame, women wore tuxedos without apology, and everyone danced beneath the same mirrored ball. Identity wasn't questioned, it was embraced, challenged, and redefined every night. Behind every bold outfit stood courage. Freedom of expression didn't come easy in a world still ruled by prejudice and fear. Clubs became sanctuaries where acceptance wasn't just offered, it was expected. Nightlife gave a voice to the voiceless. In those rooms, people discovered who they were and realized they were never truly alone. Politics bled into every beat, every song, every night. Margaret Thatcher's Britain felt cold, harsh, and divided. But inside the clubs, people fought back with dance, fashion, and defiance. The dance floor became a quiet rebellion against unemployment, inequality, and oppression. Music spoke where speeches failed. Protest anthems mixed with pop hits. Anger danced alongside joy. In the shadows of strikes and riots, nightlife gave people the one thing politics often took away: hope. Every night out was a reminder that unity.
How do you guys feel about Margaret Thatcher? I know we've kind of like touched on the Margaret Thatcher, what was it, milk snatcher? Um, but like, are your sentiments of her like the same as when she was there, or has it got a little more like rose-colored glasses since she's not around anymore? I know like they did I think who was it played her? Um, was it Meryl Streep played her in a movie? Um, I know they always kind of, it seems like they always poke a little bit of fun at her and stuff, but you guys have to let me know what your thoughts are.
Even if fleeting was possible. Clubs became more than escapes. They became statements. They stood for freedom of expression, against censorship, against conformity, and against silence. What happened inside wasn't just for fun, it was for survival. The politics of the 80s shaped its nights as much as its days. On dance floors across London, the future was being imagined. One song, one dance, one rebellion at a time. Behind the velvet ropes, fame felt closer than ever. London's nightlife in the 80s blurred the lines between celebrity and ordinary life. Models, actors, musicians, they weren't locked away in VIP rooms. They danced, laughed, and lived alongside everyone else. Names like Boy George, Lee Bowery, and Steve Strange weren't just famous. They were part of the scene itself.
That's George Michael,
They
right?
turned clubs into theatres, outfits into performances, and every night into a new opportunity to shock and inspire. Being seen mattered almost as much as the music. Fame moved differently here. Connections were made in smoky corners. Friendships built on late-night conversations and shared secrets. Behind the glamour, these figures were just as much part of the chaos as everyone else on the floor. The velvet rope wasn't a barrier, it was an invitation. Inside, legends were born, reputations built, and stories created that still echo through London's streets today.
Maggie May is one of my
As the
favorite
decade drew to a
songs ever.
close, the sound of the night changed again. Acid House arrived like a revolution, louder, faster, and impossible to ignore. Warehouse parties replaced velvet ropes, and neon lights gave way to strobes and smoke machines. Ecstasy became the drug of choice, fueling nights that stretched far beyond what anyone thought possible. Beats dropped harder, bass shook the walls, and unity spread across dance floors, packed with strangers moving as one. This wasn't about exclusivity anymore. It was about connection. The underground scene exploded. Abandoned buildings became temples of sound, and DJs replaced rock stars as the new idols of the night. London's nightlife shifted from style to substance, from posing to pure energy. Acid House wasn't just music, it was a movement. It closed the door on the 80s and opened one to a future built on rhythm, freedom, and the power of the crowd. Did nightlife shape who you became? Nightlife in London during the 1980s was more than music, more than fashion, more than neon lights on wet pavements. It was a generation writing its own story in real time, louder, freer, and bolder with every night that passed. From famous faces to forgotten alleyways, from first kisses to last dances, these nights shaped identities, friendships, and entire cultural movements. If you want to keep exploring how
That was good. That was interesting. I enjoyed that. You guys are gonna have to let me know, like, if you guys were part of that, if y'all went out a lot, especially in London, if any of those places, WAG or the Palace place or some whatever the Palace one was, you'll have to let me know if you guys partook in that. If you guys are punks or glam or whatever. Um, Let me know in the comments, and if you have any awesome memories of it, drop them in there too. I can't wait to read it. Thank you guys for watching with me. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, and yeah, I hope you guys have an awesome day.